The Lost Years of Merlin. Last chapter, chapter 5, was mostly just Bronwyn and Emrys talking. We learned a little bit more about her and this mystical land called Finkyra. So now we are going to read chapter 6, entitled Flames. Okay. A shape filled the doorway, blocking the light. I jumped up from the pallet, knocking over Bronwyn's wooden bowl. "Denidius!" A hefty arm pointed at us. "Come out, both of you." "We will not." Bronwyn rose to her feet and stood beside me. Denidius's gray eyes flashed angrily. He shouted over his shoulders, "Take her first!" He entered the hut, followed by 2 of the boys from the village square. Lud was not with them. I grabbed Denidius by the arm. He shook me off as if I were a fly, throwing me backward into the table bearing Bronwyn's utensils and ingredients. Spoons, knives, strainers, and bowls sprayed across the dirt floor of the hut as the table collapsed under my weight. Liquids and pastes splattered the clay walls, while seeds and leaves flew into the air. Seeing him wrestling with Bronwyn, I sprung to my feet and leaped at him. He wheeled around and smacked me with such force that I flew backward into the wall. I lay there, momentarily dazed. When my head cleared, I realized that I was alone in the hut. At first, I wasn't certain what had happened. Then, hearing shouts outside, I stumbled over to the doorway. Bronwyn lay 20 or 30 paces away, in the middle of the path. Her hands and legs were bound with a length of spliced rope. A wad of cloth, torn from her dress, had been stuffed into her mouth so she could not cry out. Apparently, the merchants and villagers in the square, busy with their work, had not yet noticed her, or not wanted to intervene. "Look at her," laughed a slim, grimy-faced boy, pointing at the crumpled figure on the path. "She's not so scary now." His companion, still holding some rope, joined the laughter. "Serves the she-demon right." I started to run to her aid. Suddenly I caught sight of Denidius, bending over a pile of loose brush that had been stacked under the wide boughs of the oak. As he slid a shovelful of flaming coals from the smith's shop under the brush, fear sliced through me. A fire. He's starting a fire. Flames began crackling in the brush. A column of smoke swiftly lifted into the branches of the tree. At this point, Denidius stood upright, hands on his hips, surveying his work. Silhouetted before the fire, he looked to me like a demon himself. "She says she's not afraid of fire," declared Denidius, to the nods of the other boys. "She says she cannot be burned." "Let's find out," called the boy with the rope. "Fire!" shouted one of the merchants, suddenly aware of the flames. "Put it out!" cried a woman, emerging from her hut. But before anyone could move, the 2 boys had already grabbed Bronwyn by the legs. They began dragging her toward the blazing tree, where Denidius stood waiting. I ran out of the hut, my eyes fixed on Denidius. Rage swelled within me, such rage as I had never known before. Uncontrollable and unstoppable, it coursed through my body like an enormous wave, knocking aside every other sense and feeling. Seeing my approach, Denidius grinned. "Just in time, whelp. We'll cook you both together." A single wish overwhelmed me. He should burn in hell. At that instant, the tree shuddered and cracked, as if it had been ripped by a bolt of lightning. Denidius whirled around just as one of the biggest branches, perhaps weakened by his fire, broke loose. Before he could escape, the branch fell directly on top of him, pitting his chest and crushing his arms. Like the breath of a dozen dragons, the flames leaped higher. Villagers and merchants scattered. Branches exploded into flames. The sound of their snapping and splitting nearly drowned out the cries of the trapped boy. I rushed to Bronwyn. She had been dropped only a few paces from the burning tree. Fire was licking at the edges of her robe. Quickly I pulled her away from the searing flames and untied her bonds. She pulled the wad from her mouth, staring at me with both gratitude and fear. "Did you do that?" I think so. Some kind of magic." Her sapphire eyes fixed on me. "Your magic. Your power." Before I could reply, a spine-shivering scream erupted from inside the inferno. It went on, a cry of absolute agony. Hearing that voice, that helpless human voice, my blood froze within my veins. I knew at once what I had done. I also knew what I must do. "No!" protested Bronwyn, clutching at my tunic. But it was too late. I had already plunged into the roaring flames. Okay, so that was the end of chapter 6, but since it was really short, I think we'll read another one also. This one is chapter 7, entitled Hidden. Let me update the chapter number really quick. Alrighty. Chapter 7, Hidden. Voices, angelic voices. I sat bolt upright. Could they really be angels? Was I really dead? Darkness surrounded me, blacker than any night I had ever known. Then, the pain. The pain on my face and my right hand told me I must indeed be alive. It was searing pain, clawing pain, as if my very skin were being ripped away. Beneath the pain, I grew aware of a strange weight on my brow. Cautiously, I reached my hands to my face. The fingers of my right hand, I realized, were bandaged. So were my brow, my cheeks, my eyes, swathed in cold, wet cloths that smelled of pungent herbs. Even the barest touch cut me with daggers of pain. A heavy door creaked open. Across an expanse of stone floor, footsteps approached, echoing from a high ceiling above my head. Footsteps whose cadence I thought I recognized. Bronwyn? Yes, my son, answered the voice in the darkness. You have awakened. I am glad. Yet she sounded more dismal than glad, I thought, as she lightly caressed the back of my neck. I must change your bandages. I'm afraid it will hurt. No, don't touch me. But I must if you are to heal. No. Emrys, I must. All right, but be careful. It hurts so much already. I know. I tried my best to remain still as she carefully unwrapped the bandages, touching me as delicately as a butterfly. While she worked, she dripped something over my face, which smelled as fresh as the forest after a rain and seemed to numb the pain a little. Feeling somewhat better, I spouted questions like a fountain. How long have I slept? Where is this place? Who are those voices? You and I, forgive me if this stings, are at the Church of St. Peter. We are the guests of the nuns who live here. It is they who you hear singing. St. Peter? That's in Caer Mearden. So it is. Feeling a cold draft from a window or door somewhere, I drew my rough wool blanket about my shoulders. But that is several days' travel, even with a horse. So it is. But be still, Emrys, while I untie this. But still now, that's right. Just a moment. Ah, there. As the bandage fell away, so did my questions about how we had come to be here. A new question crowded out all the rest. For although my eyes were no longer covered, I still could not see. Why is it so dark? Bronwyn did not answer. Didn't you bring a candle? Again, she did not answer. Is it nighttime? Still, she did not answer. Yet she did not need to, for the answer came from a cuckoo, alive with song, somewhere nearby. The fingers of my unbandaged hand quivered as I touched the tender area around my eyes. I winced, feeling the blotches of scabs, the still burning skin underneath. No hair on my eyebrows, no eyelashes either. Blinking back the pain, I traced the edges of my eyelids, crusted and scarred. I knew my eyes were wide open. I knew I could see nothing. And with a shiver, I knew one thing more. I was blind. In anguish, I bellowed. Suddenly hearing again the sound of the cuckoo, I flung off my blanket. Despite the weakness of my legs, I forced myself to rise from the pallet, pushing away Bronwyn's hand as she tried to stop me. I staggered across the stones, following the sound. I tripped on something and crashed to the floor, landing on my shoulder. Stretching out my arms, I could feel nothing but the surface of the stones beneath me. They felt hard and cold, like a tomb. My head spun. I could feel Bronwyn helping me to my feet, even as I could hear her muffled sobs. Again, I pushed her away. Staggering forward, my hands hit a wall of solid rock. The sound of the cuckoo drew me to the left. The groping fingers of my unbandaged hand caught the edge of a window. Grasping the sill, I pulled myself closer. Cool air stung my face. The cuckoo sang, so close to me that I might have reached out and touched its wing. For the first time, it seemed, in weeks, I felt the splash of sunshine on my face. Yet as hard as I tried to find the sun, I could not see it. Hidden, the whole world is hidden. My legs buckled beneath me. I fell to the floor, my head upon the stones, and I wept. Okay, that was chapter 7. The next chapter that I'll read tomorrow at 9 p.m. Pacific time is called The Gift. So tune in then.